So something is not right with Doris. My last vlog ended just a little bit ago where we came out and she'd had 3 babies. They were dried off. We thought that that was a little unusual, but not unheard of. 3 babies and a first timer. The reason I think that it was a little strange is because she looked so big, but it's not unheard of. And she was getting kind of fussy when the babies were moving around a lot because we were back here. They weren't wanting to stay burrowed in. And so we thought we were going to give her some space. Well, Maya came back and checked on her about 20 minutes later and noticed that something didn't look right. She has what we suspect is a uterine or cervical prolapse, which is where the part of the uterus, in some cases, a large part of the uterus, it doesn't look like a bad one, but the part of the uterus basically exits the body. She has a really bad bulge. It's very red, hanging out, and it just doesn't look good. It looks like prolapse. So we actually messaged a couple of our friends who have pig experience and just did some really quick, like, trying to figure out what's the most responsible thing to do here. And we quickly realized that we're in a little over our heads as far as experience goes. So right now we're waiting for the emergency vet to get here. She is getting up and moving around some, and it doesn't look quite as bad as it did earlier. So we may just be being overcautious, but I would just rather have an expert come and look at this. If it is a uterine prolapse, it's not a horrible one. The concern that I have is that if she is prolapsed, if there are more babies in there and they're not able to get out, then obviously that leads to their death and to hers. If she's done having, if she doesn't have any more in and it's prolapse, I think it can be repaired if it's not too bad. In many cases, if it is really bad, it can't be repaired and the pig needs to be culled. Hey, little baby. Maya said since our first big call to the vet, our farm mom had to come. This is Andrea Vinson they have a YouTube channel, VW Family Farm. They're local to us if you haven't met her on our channel before. And they have a lot of pigs and have given us advice over the last couple of years as we've got pigs. You were here when our pigs first came. Y'all were here. We got our first pig from you, actually. Yes. So she was driving by on her way back home. Yeah. And so she came by to give her opinion. She looked at it and the vet just pulled up. So let's go take a look at Doris. So there's a chance that Doris is fine. Andrea was sharing some experience. They've experienced like everything and having baby pigs, and so it might be fine. I would rather overreact, have the vet come look, and it be nothing, rather than ignore it and it be bad, and especially if it could have gotten better with help. This isn't so bad. It's in the house.
Oh, when the creep feeder?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's pin her back up.
Alright.
So
what's the chances of us getting...
Yeah, the stress of having new babies and stuff.
She lets us pet on her and stuff. I mean, she let Andrea touch on her earlier to look at it.
Probably fairly stressed.
Yeah.
It's like right between your knees.
So that one was in the rear, and that one's going where?
And just as long as they're both in the muscle, that's fine.
Both in the muscle.
So I go like I do, like right here on us.
Okay.
And then like right here.
All right.
And so go in like a 90, pull back, make sure you don't have any blood, and then push it.
Okay.
Tomorrow, if you need it, call the office and let me know how she's doing.
Okay.
The clear one.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah. If she needs it.
Okay.
If not, just gonna keep it back on hand. 5 days.
This is for the pain.
Yeah.
Pain and inflammation.
Okay. 5 days on the line.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's good news.
Sure you sent it,
Guys, she's okay. I'm so relieved. It's okay. It's a hematoma, and it's just from giving birth, and she's all right. It looks way better than it did just 2 hours ago even. He did an exam. She does not have any more babies inside, so she just had 3. And so we gave her some pain medication so that she's not hurting anymore, and we did go ahead and give her some antibiotic, and we'll repeat that in 5 days. That's to make sure that the hematoma itself doesn't get infected, but also after having done an internal exam, we want to make sure that we don't have a uterine infection or something that we introduce by doing that exam. But oh my gosh, I'm so relieved. Oh, thank you. Doris, girl, I'm sorry, that was scary. I'm so glad you're okay. You're okay, good girl. You sweet baby. Hey, it's okay, mama. So she's feeding her babies. She's got 3 of them. I actually have not looked to see if they're boys or girls yet. I don't want to stress her out anymore. We're gonna let them bed back down. Oh, Gerard, he was really stressed out hearing her screaming. It's okay, Dad. It's okay, Papa. I'm so relieved right now. I'm so relieved.
That's actually best case scenario.
Andrea actually kind of called it before the vet got here. She said that they've had a similar situation, and she said if it was a prolapse, it was a very mild one, and that it would probably resolve itself. But yeah. I feel better knowing that there's not any more babies stuck in there.
And my thoughts are, every experience like this you gain knowledge and confidence, and
and I know
what you're looking for.
I know better.
Yeah.
And I'd just rather err on the side of caution, so I feel good. I'm glad you stopped by. It is currently 2 days after the first part of this vlog was shot. And I want to take you guys back to check on Doris and the babies. They're doing great. Hey y'all. Hey beautiful ones. Y'all enjoying some food? They're so pretty. Maya's going around feeding everybody. I'm gonna run through the greenhouse real quick. Just take a look, because I haven't been out here today. Oh, I just cannot express how lovely it is. The first moment that I walk in every day, I'm just like, oh, yes, so good. I've got little seedlings here. These are cabbages. They're looking good, standing up tall. And these are some things I transplanted over, some Brussels sprouts and rutabagas. And then here as well, these are cheddar cauliflowers. And they look very happy. And those are the same. I like seeing that. Oh, it all looks so good. I love how you can see, like here, I've got a few cabbages left, but it's starting to have some pretty good spaces that you can see. At this point, I've pulled out some turnips, but they're just so thick that you can't even really tell where I've harvested a lot of stuff. But I'm starting to get some spaces. I threw some spinach in here. It's time to pull those out. They did not make it past those frosts. And I still have a lot of space left to sow. We've eaten most of the broccoli. Got a little bit left. Oh, well, my walkway tomatoes look like they finally got some frost damage. I guess that was inevitable. It looks like even my peas might have gotten a tiny bit of frost damage. It must have gotten pretty cold in here. Now, the peas are fine, like the plants look fine, but a lot of the pods look a little frost damaged. I'm not even sure you'll be able to see it. It's just a little bit of discoloration on there. It's not real bad or anything. Peas are not quite as hardy as like the rest of the stuff that's in here. The rest of the cold stuff. Root vegetables and brassicas like kale, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. Those things are very hardy. And I've had a lot of people asking, you know, if I have plans to try to heat this high tunnel, or suggesting things I could do to heat the high tunnel. Like doing a wood burning stove, or, you know, doing compost piles or buckets of water that might retain heat. And those are all really valid options for adding heat to a high tunnel like this. But that's really not why I have this. Here in Arkansas, in central Arkansas, it never gets that cold. Like, we're zone 7, which means the coldest it ever gets here is like 0 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is like -17 to -12 or so Celsius. And that is actually, it's cold enough to kill most of these things if it actually got down that low, but that is the extreme for us. That's like the coldest ever. In memory for me, since I have been gardening, so like the last 10-ish years, I can only remember it getting down that cold like a handful of days a few years ago. Now, if I've got a lot of food in here into like February, which is our coldest months, is like late January into February, what I can do to protect it is put another layer, like you essentially can put like a low tunnel over the beds inside the high tunnel, and that would carry all of this stuff through our absolute coldest temperatures. But until things get consistently very cold outside and it's not getting sunny, I am not gonna have to do that. And for me, yes, I could have tried harder to keep things like peppers or tomatoes alive in here over the winter, but I don't mind not eating them over the winter. You know, I've got a lot of stuff put up. I've got sauces and salsa put up from the summer that we canned. I've got canned peppers and freeze-dried and frozen peppers. So I kind of like seasonal eating. I actually enjoy the appreciation that it spurs in me to, like, right now I'm eating all the leafy things and the roots, and right now I'm actually really enjoying this stuff. Come next spring, I'll be missing things like tomatoes, and we can maybe do some season extension, like maybe start things a little bit earlier. I might be able to start tomatoes out here, you know, transplant them out here before maybe we're clear of frost outside, and that'll be cool because then I can get them sooner next season when I'm really missing them. But as of right now, it's just not worth the energy and effort for me personally to try to grow those things and extend them into the fall and winter seasons. And that's obviously like a personal preference. Some other people might think that that's something that they want to do, but it's just not for me. I'm actually completely okay with what I got going on out here right now. I will tell you, the camera doesn't do it justice. Walking in this door and seeing, I don't know, you can just breathe it. I wish I could actually share that with you guys. Hey piggies. They do not care about me right now while there's food to be had. Hello, Doris. Oh, here's the babies. 3 little babies. I actually don't know what's what here. Y'all want to take a look and see if we've got boys or girls? Okay. I'll leave them alone. She said, no, you may not. All right, that one's a boy. That one's a boy, that one's a boy. They're all boys. Now she's back to eating her food. Now that we've both scared each other thoroughly, she's back to eating. And she has 3 little boars. Don't be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. You're fine. Oh, you want to be friends now? Are you cool now? Now that I'm on this side of the fence, we're okay to be friends? I don't care if she got mad at me. I am still really glad that she's okay. So it's not unusual for a mommy pig to be like, don't touch my babies. They can be pretty protective over them. And the way that our other pigs, Fanny and Clementine, let us handle their babies is kind of unusual. And with Doris having such kind of a traumatic experience right after birth, I'm sure she was in a lot of pain from having the hematoma and then having to have the internal exam. That probably has her a little more on the protective side, which that's okay. I'm gonna give her space. That is completely fine. I don't have to handle the babies. She is looking way better today. She's still swollen. You can still see a little bit of the injury, but it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did the day of. And even now, a couple days later, now that the check for the vet has cleared the bank, I'm still glad we made the decision that we made to have her checked out. It is kind of a hard thing when you have a farm because in a lot of cases, unless the animals are just your pets and you have just an extra income to be able to hire vets without really an absolute need for them, it can get really expensive. And a lot of times you have to really weigh out, like, what is this animal worth? How much am I willing to spend? Like Jeremiah and I have actually discussed it, and we sort of have a cap on what we're willing to spend on any animal on our farm. And obviously our pets, like our dogs and our cat, the cap is a little higher than necessarily for a livestock animal. And this was our first ever vet call that we've ever had on our farm. Now, there were probably some times very early on in our experience that we would have called a vet had that been an option for us, but we were not financially in a place to be able to make that choice. That's just being completely honest about this. Also, through the process of not being able to call a vet for every little thing that we didn't know how to do, we learned how to do a lot of stuff. And so there are a lot of things on our farm that we do go ahead and do. We learned how to obviously give injections, to do blood draws, to, in the case of like a goat kid getting stuck, to go in internally and reposition the goat. There are a lot of things that whenever I first started out, I mean, with no history of farming, just growing up in the city, I had no clue how to do that stuff. And now, next time that something like this happens with a pig giving birth, I'll have that knowledge. So I don't regret at all the decision that we made to go ahead and be proactive with this, because in making sure that Doris is taken care of now, I feel like we are handling her well, we're being good stewards of what we have, and we're also on the financial investment taking care of a pig which we've now raised up to breeding age. I mean, we've invested a lot in her to get her to this point, so we want her to have, you know, optimum health for farrowing from now on out, because that's how we will essentially get our investment back that we've put into her. All of these things are things that you have to consider and learn to weigh out if you're going to do the homestead thing. If you're going to be sustainable, you got to learn how to do a lot of stuff on your own. And then you also have to have realistic expectations and limitations for yourself on how far you're willing to go to intervene for an animal. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us through this process. I'm so glad that it was not a sad video. I hate making the sad ones. God bless y'all. Until next time.